Dubai is a city of superlatives, home to the world's tallest building, man-made islands that reshape the coastline, and opulent malls and hotels that dazzle the imagination. To a casual observer, it can appear as a futuristic oasis of wealth and luxury rising from the Arabian desert, a sort of Las Vegas meets Wall Street on the shores of the Persian Gulf. Millions of tourists transit its airport and marvel at its skyline each year, and businesses laud its tax-free policies and modern infrastructure. Yet behind the glittering facade of skyscrapers and five-star resorts lies a more nuanced economic story. Dubai's journey from a small pearl diving settlement to a global metropolis is a tale of bold vision, rapid transformation, and complex trade-offs. It is a story of diversification beyond oil, aggressive development, and global integration, but also one that includes hidden debts, vulnerable labor dynamics, and stark contrasts between wealth and poverty. Hello, everyone. Let's talk about Dubai, that city with more glitz than a Vegas casino and more skyscrapers than a teenager's Minecraft server. Dubai, the place where the police drive Lamborghinis, where there's an indoor ski slope in the middle of the desert. ATMs sometimes dispense gold bars because paper money is just too basic, and islands are literally shaped like palm trees and even the world map. It's like someone gave SimCity to a kid who entered the cheat code for unlimited money. But as amazing as the skyline looks, and trust me, it's jaw-dropping, today we're doing a deep dive into Dubai's economy and the reality behind its luxurious facade. Spoiler alert, not everything that glitters in the desert is gold, sometimes it's just gold-plated. Dubai is often thought of as a land of oil sheikhs swimming in petrodollars, a sort of real-life emerald city that sprang up from the dunes overnight. To many Americans, Dubai seems like the Middle Eastern cousin of Las Vegas, a flashy, fast-growing adult playground with endless shopping, five-star hotels, and a penchant for breaking world records, tallest this, biggest that, first ever whatever. But what if I told you that image is only the glossy cover of a much more complicated book? Beneath the luxury sports cars and futuristic skyline lies an economic story full of surprises, some inspiring, some troubling, and some straight-up ironic. Kind of like finding out the rich kid in high school was actually using borrowed money and unpaid labor to throw those lavish parties. So buckle up in your gold-plated seatbelt, of course. We're about to peel back the glittery curtain on Dubai's economy. And don't worry, we'll have some laughs along the way to keep things entertaining, because what better way to discuss labor laws and economic diversification than with a healthy dose of sarcasm and pop culture references? 1. Origins. A desert outpost strikes oil, but not that much. Our story starts as so many epic tales do, with some humble beginnings. Picture Dubai in the early 20th century. It was a small trading port on the Arabian Gulf, known mostly for pearl diving and fishing. In those days, luxury meant having a wooden boat that didn't leak. Fast forward to 1966, a year that changed everything. That's when Dubai struck oil. Cue the Beverly Hillbillies theme song, because overnight this little Gulf emirate went from struggling to pay the bills to buying a round of shots for everyone at the bar. But hold on, before you imagine gushing oil wells turning the desert into a Texas-style boomtown, here's the catch. Dubai's oil reserves were sizable enough to spark some serious growth, but nowhere near as huge as what their neighbors in Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia had. Think of it this way. If Abu Dhabi got the whole cake of oil, Dubai got maybe a cupcake. A tasty cupcake, sure, but not a lifetime supply. Oil once made up about half of Dubai's GDP back in the 1980s. Yet today oil contributes less than 1% of its GDP. Dubai basically used oil like a launch pad, one big push, and then we have liftoff, leaving the oil boosters behind. It's like if Apple started in Steve Jobs' garage by selling one really expensive old lamp and then immediately moved on to building iPhones. They knew the lamp money wouldn't last, so they reinvested it quick. So in the late 60s and 70s, Dubai's ruling family, led by Sheikh Rashid bin Saeed Al Maktoum at the time, had a pivotal decision to make. Either cling to the limited oil and pray that more is hiding under the sand, spoiler. It wasn't, or use that initial oil revenue to diversify the economy like crazy. They chose door number 2 with gusto. Dubai went on a building and development spree like an over-caffeinated kid with a Lego set. Infrastructure, ports, airports, you name it, they built it. They dredged the creek to allow bigger ships, expanded the port, built new roads. Sheikh Rashid reportedly said something along the lines of, "My grandfather rode a camel, my father rode a camel, I drive a Mercedes, my son drives a Land Rover, his son will drive a Land Rover, but his son will ride a camel." In other words, he knew the oil bonanza could be fleeting. Yes, that's an actual quote often cited to Gulf leaders. Basically a warning that oil wealth can disappear as quickly as it came, leaving you back where you started. So Dubai's strategy became, turn that petrodollar stash into a diversified powerhouse before the wells run dry. Kind of like cashing in your lottery ticket and investing it in a bunch of different stocks, but the stakes were an entire city's future. They were determined not to be a one-hit wonder, sorry, oil. You were just the Macarena of revenue streams, catchy but short-lived. This was forward-thinking to their credit. Imagine if Detroit in the 1920s had said, cars are great now, but let's also build tourism and tech and finance here just in case. That's basically what Dubai did. In the 70s and 80s, they laid the groundwork for a post-oil economy, building one of the world's biggest man-made ports at Jebel Ali, creating a shipping and trade hub. It was a bold bet. People probably thought the ruler of Dubai was nuts building a huge deepwater port in the middle of nowhere. It's like someone building a massive airport in rural Kansas and saying, "Trust me, this will be the next big thing." Usually, you'd think that person had inhaled too many gas fumes. But in Dubai's case, it worked. By 1979, Port Jebel Ali was up and running, and guess what? It did become the busiest port in the Middle East. They even set up Jebel Ali Free Zone around it in 1985, basically telling foreign companies, hey, come set up shop, you can own 100% of your business and pay no taxes. We won't even ask you to dress like us or learn Arabic, pinky swear. This was revolutionary in a region where typically foreigners had to partner with locals to do business. Dubai essentially said, we may not have oil, but we have location, 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 and we're open for business 24/7. It's as if Wall Street moved to a tax-free tropical island, but with more sand and fewer margaritas. 2. The metamorphosis, from oil town to global city. So by the 1990s, Dubai had established itself as a regional trade hub. But the rulers had bigger dreams. They didn't want just a trade outpost. They wanted a global city. Enter Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Sheikh Rashid's son, the current ruler and the main guy behind Dubai, Inc. Think of him as the CEO of Dubai with a penchant for mega projects. If this were a Marvel movie, he'd be Tony Stark, visionary, a bit audacious, and very wealthy, though to be clear, he's not designing Iron Man suits, just giant skyscrapers and futuristic cities. Sheikh Mohammed looked at Dubai in the 1990s and said something like, all right, we have trade, we have a decent airport, but what we really need is tourists and financiers and the global glitterati to swarm this place. How do you do that? By making Dubai awesome in the eye-catching, headline-grabbing sense. And boy, did they set out to do that. First, they launched Emirates Airline in 1985. Now, starting an airline might not seem directly tied to economy behind a facade, but it absolutely is. Emirates Airline is wholly owned by the Dubai government, and it basically serves as a giant flying billboard for Dubai. It connects the world to Dubai through an ever-expanding web of routes with top-notch service. If you've ever flown Emirates, it's like the Four Seasons of airlines. They literally have a shower spa on the A380 planes for first class. A shower on a plane. Meanwhile, I'm happy if I get a bag of pretzels on a domestic flight in the US, so yeah, Emirates helped put Dubai on the map and made Dubai International Airport one of the busiest in the world. Pre-pandemic, it was one globally for international travelers. Even beating London Heathrow, the place was packed with connecting flights. Every layover was a chance to seduce tourists. Oh, you have 8 hours here. Come check out our shiny city and maybe spend a few bucks at duty-free. Sneaky. Then came the skyline. In the late 90s and 2000s, Dubai's motto might as well have been go big or go home. They built the Burj Al Arab Hotel in 1999, that iconic sail-shaped building on its own little island. Marketed as the world's first 7-star hotel, which is a totally made-up rating, by the way. Hotels officially go up to 5 stars, but Dubai was like, screw it, we're 7, take that, world. That hotel has suites that cost more per night than a semester of college. It has a helipad where they once had a tennis match between Andre Agassi and Roger Federer just to show off, because nothing says luxury like playing tennis 50 stories up in the air. Basically, the Burj Al Arab screamed, "We are the new capital of extravagance." Imagine Las Vegas Bellagio, but on a private island and double the price, and you get the idea. But a single fancy hotel wasn't enough. Dubai wanted an entire futuristic cityscape, so they went on a skyscraper binge. The early 2000s saw construction cranes become as common as palm trees. Fun fact. People used to joke that the national bird of Dubai is the construction crane. That is. And indeed, at one point something like 20% of all the world's tower cranes were operating in Dubai. It was like a perpetual build-a-thon. Let's talk about some of these projects. There's Palm Jumeirah, an artificial island shaped like a giant palm tree built out into the sea, packed with luxury homes and resorts. Who comes up with this? We need more coastline, so let's just create some and make it look like a palm tree for style points. It's both brilliant and a little bit bonkers. It's as if Florida decided to make a new island shaped like Mickey Mouse to boost tourism. And believe it or not, they didn't stop at one palm-shaped island. They announced two more Palm Jebel Ali and Palm Dara, and an archipelago shaped like a map of the world islands. Why have a normal coastline when you can have a selfie-ready coastline visible from space? Though I'll note, not all of these panned out as planned. More on that later when we talk about bubbles bursting. Then, of course, the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building on planet Earth since it opened in 2010. If you haven't seen pictures of it, well, picture a skyscraper, then stretch it like gum. It's over half a mile high, 22 feet. It's so tall that on the higher floors, you can watch the sunset later than on the ground floor, because you're literally above the horizon line. It's a mix of luxury apartments, corporate offices, and the Armani Hotel. Yes, Giorgio Armani has a hotel in it, because why not? The Burj Khalifa is basically Dubai saying, "Look on my works, O world, in despair, or at least gape in awe." It's an exclamation point in the skyline. The crazy thing, by the time the Burj Khalifa opened, it technically wasn't even built with Dubai money, it was Abu Dhabi money. Wait, what? Yep, originally it was named Burj Dubai, but remember that 2009 financial crisis. Dubai ran out of cash mid-construction, and big brother Abu Dhabi swooped in with a bailout. They slapped Khalifa, the Abu Dhabi ruler's name, on the tower like a big, sponsored by Abu Dhabi sticker. It's like if your rich uncle paid off your mortgage and in return you had to rename your kid after him. Awkward, but hey, the tower got finished. Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll dive into that crisis soon. Sticking with the early 2000s for now, by building all this, Dubai effectively said, "We're open for tourism, and not just any tourism, luxury tourism." By the mid-2000s, Dubai was on every travel bucket list. Americans started going not just out of curiosity, but because it was marketed as this must-see global city. It had the biggest mall in the world, Dubai Mall, complete with an aquarium, an indoor waterfall, an ice rink, and over 1,300 stores because apparently Americans don't get enough of malls at home. It had indoor skiing at Mall of the Emirates, which blows people's minds. You can literally ski on real snow indoors while it's 100 degrees F outside. It's like Mother Nature is not invited to this party. It had wild attractions like a fountain show to rival Bellagio's, the Dubai Fountain by the Burj Khalifa, which is like Bellagio's fountain but on steroids, of course. They even built theme parks, water parks, a miracle garden with absurdly lavish flower displays in the desert. Basically, anything that could make for a great Instagram post, Dubai built it. By 2019, right before the pandemic hit, Dubai welcomed about 16 million international tourists in that year. For context, that's more tourists than Hawaii gets, more than Las Vegas. Vegas gets around 40 million, but many are domestic. Internationally, Dubai was ahead. It was among the top 5 most visited cities on Earth. Think about that. A place that in 1950 was maybe 20,000 people, and some camels became one of the most visited cities in the world within 2 generations. It's like if your sleepy hometown suddenly turned into Disneyland, Times Square, and Wall Street all rolled into one. Quick travel tip: Dubai is dazzling, but it's not a complete free-for-all. Unlike Vegas, you won't find any casinos. Gambling is illegal in the UAE. And while alcohol flows in hotel bars and clubs, Don't get any ideas about doing keg stands on the street or making out on the beach at noon. Public decency laws are a thing. Tourists have been fined or even jailed for behavior that, in Las Vegas, would barely raise an eyebrow. Basically, think luxury fun but within some boundaries. If Las Vegas is what happens here stays here, Dubai is more like, what happens here better be within the law, or you may get a polite but firm tap on the shoulder. Analogy break. If I had to compare Dubai's transformation to an American phenomenon, it's a bit like the California Gold Rush era, or maybe more accurately Las Vegas from 1950 to 2000 on fast forward. Las Vegas went from a dusty Nevada pit stop to a neon oasis once the mob in Hollywood decided to make it a gambling haven. Similarly, Dubai went from a dusty Gulf port to a neon and glass oasis once the royals decided to make it a luxury haven. Except swap out casinos for megamalls and swap the mob for state-backed corporations. Some might joke that's not too different, but hey. And unlike Vegas, where what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, in Dubai it's more like what happens in Dubai is posted on Instagram immediately. Because half the point of Dubai is showing off that you're in Dubai, living your best life with the Burj Khalifa in the background. 3. The labor behind the luxury. Who's building this stuff? Alright, so far it sounds like Dubai is basically a capitalist fairy tale, visionary leaders, bold investments, bam, skyscrapers and prosperity. But here comes the part in every fairy tale where we ask, who are the little elves that made the shoes for the shoemaker overnight? In Dubai's story, those elves are an army of human workers, mostly migrants, and their tale is less fairy, more grim. Dubai has about 3.5 million residents today, give or take, and get this. Roughly 90% of those are expatriates, foreigners. That means only about 1 in 10 people in Dubai is an actual Emirati citizen. Imagine if New York City's population were 90% non-American, or if 9 out of 10 people in Dallas were temporary foreign workers. It's mind-boggling, but that's Dubai. It's a city where the locals are a tiny minority and foreigners run everything from top executive offices to, importantly, the construction sites and cleaning crews. Now, not all expats in Dubai have the same story. At the top, you have wealthy expats, the bankers, the executives, the influencers who moved for tax-free income and sunny weather, and because maybe they watched one too many Fast and Furious movies set in exotic locales. But a huge chunk of the expat population is made up of migrant workers from South Asia and other developing regions. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, the Philippines, Nepal, Egypt, you name it. These are the people who actually build the skyscrapers, pave the roads, serve the food, and basically keep the shiny city running. Without them, Dubai would literally grind to a halt and probably collapse under the weight of unfinished mega-projects. So what's life like for these workers? In official Dubai promo videos, you'll never see it. It's as hidden as the secret menu at In-N-Out. Many of these workers come to Dubai on something called the kafala system. Kafala is a sponsorship system used in the Gulf countries. In practice, it means a worker's legal status is tied to their employer. The employer sponsors their visa, and the worker can't just up and leave for another job or country easily without that sponsor's permission. Think of it as a combo of a job contract and an ankle monitor. You're free to move, but only within the bounds of who controls your visa. Now, imagine how this plays out. A construction company in Dubai needs 5,000 workers for a new skyscraper. They hire recruiters who find men in, say, rural India or Pakistan, promising them good-paying jobs. Often these guys pay hefty recruitment fees for the opportunity, which, by the way, puts them in debt before they've even laid a brick. They arrive in Dubai, passports often taken by the employer for safekeeping. Yes, that happens a lot, even though technically it's illegal, but who's checking? They get put on a job site in brutal 110 degrees F heat, working long hours 6 days a week. They might be making, say, $200 or $300 a month. They live in labor camps on the outskirts of the city, with 6, 8, maybe 10 men crammed in a room, sharing bathrooms with dozens of others. Meanwhile, every day they get bussed into the gleaming city to build luxury condos and hotels that, ironically, they could never dream of stepping inside except maybe to clean the floors. Picture this scenario. A construction worker from Bangladesh finishes a 12-hour shift and video calls his family back home. Behind him, you see a cramped room with triple-bunked beds and a single fan trying its best against the heat. He spent his day installing marble floors in a five-star hotel lobby so opulent that even the toilet seats are probably gilded. Now he's sitting on the floor of a dorm he shares with a dozen other guys, eating rice and dehal from a tin plate. It's a stark contrast, to put it mildly. Kinda makes you think of an episode of MTV Cribs with a twisted twist. First, you tour the penthouse suite of a Dubai millionaire marble jacuzzi, rooftop helipad, the works. Then you cut to the crib of the guys who built that penthouse, and it's a cinder-block bunkhouse on the city outskirts with communal bathrooms and zero glam. Not exactly the part of the city they want to show off. It's like some weird modern-day version of Egyptian pyramids being built, except instead of slaves, it's poorly paid migrant laborers, and instead of pharaohs, it's ultra-modern billionaires and sheikhs. And ironically, the pyramids at least eventually became tombs that honored the workers' masters. In Dubai, once the tower is done, the workers often get a thanks, bye, and are shipped off to the next project or back home when their contract ends. To put it bluntly, the extravagant lifestyle of Dubai for the wealthy sits on the shoulders of these underpaid workers. It's the classic case of haves and have-nots, physically manifested. The haves are literally at the top of skyscrapers, the have-nots are literally laboring at the bottom. Now, I know this is heavy, but since this is the comedic portion, let's sprinkle in some wit. You could say Dubai is playing a massive game of who wore it best, between capitalism and feudalism. On one hand, they've got hypermodern capitalism, free markets, low taxes, fancy malls. On the other, the labor system sometimes looks like something from Charles Dickens or Industrial Revolution era England. Workers who can't easily change jobs, who fear deportation if they complain, who live in company-provided housing in far-flung areas like some kind of Muggle version of Hogwarts, except there's no magic and definitely no cozy Great Hall dinners. In the US, we debate raising the minimum wage and Starbucks unions. In Dubai, there's basically no such thing as a labor union for these workers. That's illegal. Strikes have happened, workers have, in rare cases, protested, but those usually end either with concessions or with deportations. It's like if the moment a US Amazon warehouse worker tried to form a union, Jeff Bezos could just legally put them on a plane back to wherever and ban them from returning. Effective for keeping wages low? Sure. Ethical? Questionable. And yes, I just compared Dubai's labor system to Amazon because ironically, Amazon actually opened a giant warehouse in Dubai too. Imagine that synergy. A company known for punishing bathroom breaks meets a city where you can't leave your job without permission. Match made in dystopia heaven. To be fair, Dubai's authorities aren't totally blind to criticism. After years of negative press about labor conditions, like stories of workers dying of heatstroke or living in squalor, they have implemented some reforms. Companies are supposed to pay wages via a monitored system now to ensure they're not withheld, and there are official midday breaks from work during the hottest months, because yes, apparently it needed a law to tell companies not to have people jackhammering in 120 degrees F at high noon. But enforcement is spotty and abuses still happen. It's one of those everyone knows but SHH don't talk about it too loudly situations, in a John Oliver-esque rant fashion. It's insane that in a city with a ski slope inside a mall, you have workers who might not have air conditioning in their dorms. How's that for contrast? And speaking of contrasts, let's talk a bit about the social scene of Dubai with regards to these different classes of people. You have supercars on the highways, Ferraris, Bugattis, you name it, sometimes driven by 20-something kids of the elite or just rich expats enjoying zero income tax. Then you have rickety buses transporting laborers to construction sites before dawn. It's a bit like the Hunger Games in a way. There's the capital, shiny Dubai, where opulence is the norm, and the districts, the worker accommodations, out of sight. Except in this version, the capital residents often genuinely don't see the district folks because they're kept separate. And luckily, there's no annual death match, unless you count trying to survive crossing Sheikh Zayed Road traffic. I should also mention the household workers, maids, nannies, drivers, mostly women from countries like the Philippines, Indonesia, etc. They work inside the lavish villas and apartments, cleaning up after the rich. Many of them also live difficult lives, subject to long hours and sometimes abuse, with few legal recourses. It's not just construction, the entire service economy rides on these folks. So while an American influencer is sipping a $20 mocktail by the pool at a Dubai resort, there's a whole pyramid of labor beneath that moment making it possible. And none of this is on the brochure. Now, just to lighten it up a bit, imagine if in Las Vegas, 90% of the people who live there year-round were from, say, Mexico or the Philippines doing all the work, and almost no Nevadans actually lived in Vegas. That would be wild, right? Well, that's normal in Dubai. And those workers often come with dreams. They want to send money back home, improve their families' lives. Dubai's economy depends on being that magnet for those dreams, much like the US has for immigrants historically. But the difference, in the US, if you work hard, you can eventually get a green card, maybe citizenship. In Dubai, you could work 30 years and you'll never become Emirati. Citizenship is basically off-limits for expats, until very recently only in extremely special cases for the super valuable. It's a guest worker model on steroids. Come, work, but you'll never fully belong or have equal rights. So to sum up this part, Dubai's glittering facade is propped up by a labor system that is, for lack of a better term, deeply unequal. Think Downton Abbey, but instead of British servants who at least get Sundays off in a little cottage, it's mostly foreign workers who are out of sight, out of mind, and definitely not at the same dinner table as the elites. It's the not-so-pretty reality that the Instagram influencers conveniently crop out of their posts for the big business of luxe, tourism, real estate, and mega projects. We touched on tourism a bit, but let's dig deeper, because this is a huge part of Dubai's economy and identity. Tourism in Dubai isn't just people coming to take selfies, it's a carefully engineered industry. The government essentially looked at the global tourism market and said, "We want a fat slice of that, please." And they made it happen by building attractions and infrastructure like there's no tomorrow. And they didn't just build it, they made sure the whole world paid attention. Dubai actively courted the spotlight. They invited celebrities for glitzy hotel openings, hosted sports events with huge prize money, and rolled out the red carpet for movie makers. If something could boost their global profile, they were game. Remember Mission: Impossible Ghost Protocol. Tom Cruise scaling the Burj Khalifa's glass walls like a real-life Spider-Man. That stunt alone probably did more for Dubai tourism than 1,000 brochures. Or take Fast and Furious 7, where they actually have a scene with cars leaping between skyscrapers, because why just drive on roads when you can fly a Lykan hypersport through the air? Even Sex and the City did a whole lavish Middle Eastern adventure clearly inspired by Dubai's opulence, though humorously, they said it in Abu Dhabi in name, but it was basically Dubai in spirit, and they couldn't even film in Dubai because the script was a bit too scandalous, so they faked it in Morocco. How's that for irony? The city also started smashing world records as a hobby tallest tower, largest mall, biggest indoor theme park, longest driverless metro, you name it. If Guinness has a record, Dubai wants it. They once lit up the entire skyline with the most massive New Year's Eve fireworks show ever, basically turning the city into a giant sparkler. It's the kind of place that hears Las Vegas brag about something and says, "Hold my camel milk latte, I can top that." In short, Dubai understood that to become a top tourist destination, it had to not only be extraordinary but look extraordinary to the rest of the world. They essentially hired themselves as their own Hollywood director, staging spectacular visuals and events so news and social media would do the marketing for them. Subtle? No. Effective? Absolutely. It's like the city hired Michael Bay as its marketing consultant. Everything is bigger, louder, and leave the audience in awe impressive. Imagine trying to turn your city into a top tourist destination. You'd probably promote your culture, museums, natural beauty, right? Dubai said, "We have some nice beaches and a bit of history, but let's be honest, we're not Rome or Paris in the culture department. So instead, let's create spectacle." So they gave the world things to gawk at. The tallest building, Burj Khalifa, already covered, it's the ultimate check-in on Facebook spot. Over 2 million people visit its observation deck each year, paying a hefty fee for the elevator ride. Yes, even the elevator in Burj Khalifa is a moneymaker. The biggest mall, Dubai Mall, over 80 million visits a year. It's got a giant aquarium inside with sharks, because of course it does. It's basically what happens when you combine Mall of America with SeaWorld and Trump Towers aesthetics. The luxury hotels. As of now, Dubai has some five-star hotels that redefine excess. The Burj Al Arab, with its gold leaf interiors and pillow menus, you choose from 17 types of pillows, because choosing a single pillow type at bedtime is for peasants apparently. The Atlantis on the Palm Island, yes, they built a resort called Atlantis with an aquatic theme including an aquarium and water park. On a man-made island, subtlety is not Dubai's strong suit. Theme parks. They tried those too, like Dubai Parks and Resorts, which includes a Legoland and a Bollywood theme park. Because when you're done shopping for Gucci, why not ride a roller coaster themed on a Hindi movie? The desert itself. They monetized the desert with safari tour dune bashing in 4x4s, camel rides, Bedouin-style barbecue dinners under the stars. It's a bit packaged, but tourists eat it up literally. Events. Dubai hosts everything from shopping festivals where they basically have citywide sales and raffles to win, say, a new car, to the Dubai World Cup, a $12 million prize horse race. Yes, richest horse race in the world, because again, of course it is. Cultural mashups. They build things like the Global Village, a seasonal theme park market with pavilions from different countries, sort of Epcot-ish, and just recently the Museum of the Future, a trippy architectural marvel with AI exhibits, like walking into a sci-fi movie. All of this is to say, Dubai constructed an entire tourism economy almost from scratch. And guess what? It contributes like 12 to 20% of their GDP, depending on how you count. It's a real economic pillar now. Tourism brings in billions of dollars, creates jobs, yes, mostly for expats as we covered, and fuels the hospitality, retail, and services sectors. Then there's real estate, which is the other side of this coin. Dubai not only built these things for tourists, they also realized they could sell pieces of their dream city to people. Why just visit when you can own a luxury condo with a view of the Burj? Throughout the 2000s, Dubai became a property developer's fantasy land. They created whole new districts, marina, downtown, etc., and sold properties to foreigners. They marketed it worldwide. If you're rich and want a pad in a happening place, buy in Dubai. It's like how Miami condos attract South American buyers, or Manhattan attracts rich folks from everywhere. Dubai wanted in on that action. And boy, did they hype it. For a while in the 2000s, if you were anyone with some cash in an emerging economy, you considered getting a slice of Dubai. Indians, Brits, Russians, the Chinese, wealthy Nigerians, Iranian millionaires, you name it, all invested. It helped that Dubai allowed foreigners to own property in designated areas, freehold zones, starting around 2002. That was a game changer. Suddenly, it wasn't just companies or governments investing, but individuals who thought it'd be cool to own a vacation home or just flip properties for profit. Dubai developers also had a flair for the dramatic in selling. They launched projects with fanfare, fireworks, celebrity appearances, maybe a Bond-style speedboat stunt. It was like IPO roadshows but for condos. And in those peak days, you had situations like people camping overnight to line up for property launches, or investors flipping contracts for profit before a single brick was laid. If that sounds familiar, yes, it was a real estate bubble building akin to the US housing bubble but in a glitzier wrapper. At its craziest, taxi drivers in Dubai were speculating in property. True story. Someone could book a few apartments off-plan, meaning before built, and sell them a month later for a 20% profit because of high demand. It was the Wild West, except in the Middle East and with air conditioning. Of course, this kind of fever leads somewhere, and not to a happy place. But we'll get to the crash in a moment. Before that, let's not forget megaprojects mania also had Dubai announcing things like the Dubilan project, planned to be a theme park complex twice the size of Disney World, because if you're going to copy Disney, you might as well double it. It was partially built but then stalled after the crash. Or the Dubai Creek Tower, a proposed new tower even taller than the Burj Khalifa, because being one apparently requires constantly one-upping oneself. They started groundwork for it but paused, likely waiting to see demand. Honestly, Dubai has a long list of announced projects that either remain in limbo or quietly got shelved, often not talked about. Like the aforementioned 2 extra Palm Islands, Palm Jebel Ali was partially built. You can see its outline in satellite photos, but it's basically a ghost project now. The World Islands. They made the islands, but most of them are just sitting there, undeveloped little sandy dots. Though recently a few got developed by private resorts. For a while, rumor was they were eroding back into the sea, a metaphor so juicy it practically writes itself. So from an American perspective, imagine if in the lead-up to 2008, Miami, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles combined their worst real estate frenzies. That's what Dubai felt like. It had the "this will only go up" energy of the dot-com bubble, but applied to property. And the government was both the cheerleader and a major player through state-owned firms. Emaar, Nakheel, Dubai Holdings, these big developers were either government or quasi-government owned, churning out projects like there's no tomorrow. When the government is also the market maker, you get some interesting dynamics. 5. The mirage waivers, economic vulnerabilities and bubbles. Now it's time for the plot twist in our story, the part where reality gives that luxurious facade a good hard poke. For Dubai, the late 2000s served a slice of humble pie. And by slice, I mean a pie the size of the Burj Khalifa. The global financial crisis of 2008 to 2009 was like a financial sandstorm that blasted through Dubai. All those speculative real estate investments, they came crashing down to earth like a skydiver who forgot their parachute. Property prices in Dubai, which had soared to stratospheric heights by mid-2008, plunged by as much as 50% or more in just a year or two. Think about that. One day you're a paper millionaire with 3 condos, the next day you're underwater on all of them. It was an economic hangover of epic proportions. Projects screeched to a halt. Construction sites literally went silent overnight because developers were out of cash and buyers disappeared. It's reported that at the height of the crisis, the number of abandoned luxury cars at Dubai's airport spiked, left by expats who lost jobs or businesses and fled the country to escape debts. In the UAE, bouncing a check or defaulting on a loan was a criminal offense, so people were like, yikes, jail. No thanks, and bolted. The image of dust-covered Porsches and BMWs left in long-term parking with apology notes, that's like the defining snapshot of Dubai 2009. It's as if a bunch of Wall Street bankers after the 2008 crash literally left their Ferraris at JFK and hopped on a flight to somewhere without extradition. Wild. And who did Dubai call when it was in trouble? Abu Dhabi to the rescue. Yes, the rich uncle next door came with the bailout bag. Dubai's flagship holding company, Dubai World, was drowning in $26 billion of debt and basically said, "We need a timeout on payments." Credit markets freaked out. For a minute it seemed possible that Dubai might default and drag down some banks. Abu Dhabi, which had oil money overflowing its coffers, stepped in with about $10 billion in loans. And earlier they had given 15 BN via the UAE Central Bank. These lifelines let Dubai restructure its debts, but not without a little pride swallowing. Remember, they renamed the Burj Khalifa in honor of Abu Dhabi's ruler. It's like if in 2009 the U.S. Treasury said, "We'll bail out GM, but they have to rename the Corvette the Obama Stingray." A bit humiliating, but hey, cash is king. The Dubai crash was essentially a lesson. You can defy economic gravity for a while, but not forever. The government and companies had been on a borrowing binge to fund all that expansion. When credit dried up globally, they hit a wall. For Americans, it's reminiscent of our housing crash, except with a sheikdom twist. There were even protests, rare in the UAE, from some investors and unpaid workers. And for a city that sells perfection, this period was like having a very public, ugly breakdown. Yet Dubai managed to climb out of that pit in the 2010s. They restructured debt, scaled back some dreams, like bye-bye to some of those extra islands and supertowers at least for a while, and focused on core businesses. By 2013 to 2014, the tourists were back, Emirates airline was booming again, and real estate slowly recovered, not to mid-2000s insanity but moderately. They also got a big win, winning the bid to host World Expo 2020, which eventually took place in 2021 due to COVID. Yes, ironically, Expo 2020 happened in 2021, a very Dubai thing to keep the name for branding. Hosting the Expo was a prestige project to reassert Dubai on the global stage. They built an entire new mini-city for it and expected millions of visitors. It gave a fresh rationale to invest and spend, sort of like, "We're back, baby." But even in the 2010s, cracks showed here and there. Another oil price slump in 2014. Oil was still crucial for Abu Dhabi, less so for Dubai directly, but regionally important slowed investment regionally. Dubai's property had another slump around 2015 to 2016. Then again, after 2018, oversupply of new apartments and global factors had prices slip. So it's a roller coaster. Dubai's economy, by virtue of being so service and tourism-oriented, is very sensitive to global ups and downs. You know how when America sneezes, the world catches cold? Well, if the world catches cold, Dubai gets the flu. They need people to travel, companies to invest, trade to flow. A global pandemic, oof, that was like closing the tap. In 2020, tourism basically shut off. Dubai's hotels went empty, its airline grounded most planes, many expats packed up because jobs vanished. Population reportedly dropped by maybe 8 to 10% in just months, a shocking outflow. For a city that had been on a non-stop growth diet, a sudden shrinkage was almost existentially terrifying. It would be like if Manhattan lost 10% of its people in one summer. Landlords would panic, oh wait, that kind of happened in 2020, so yes, similar vibe. However, being the agile place it is, Dubai pivoted hard. By late 2020, while many places were still locked down, Dubai reopened to tourists with testing and later vaccine requirements. It became one of the first destinations to say, hey world, we're open, come on in please. And people did come, especially as soon as they could. It was like that bar in a zombie movie that stays open during the apocalypse. Everyone who needed a break ran there. This helped its economy bounce back somewhat in 2021 to 2022. So credit where due, they know how to hustle out of a crisis, but the vulnerabilities remain. Dubai still has a lot of debt, tens of billions owed by government-related entities from that binge. It still depends heavily on foreigners and outside money. And here's something. By design, if Dubai's economy ever really went into freefall, most of its population can and likely would just leave. The locals might stick around, the 10% who are citizens, because it's their home and they have the safety net. But the 90% expats, they're only there as long as it's worth it. It's a transient population. We saw that in 2020 thousands left. So Dubai can grow super fast, but if a downturn is bad enough, it can shrink fast too, which is not a thing most stable economies face. The US has internal migration, but not the kind of entire workforce might vanish scenario. Also consider, to keep people coming, Dubai has to stay appealing and relatively safe. They've managed that low crime, relative stability in a turbulent region, thanks to authoritarian but effective rule. But if, say, regional conflict ever made the Gulf unsafe, or if international sanctions hit, imagine a scenario of global financial restrictions if the UAE didn't align with some Western policies, etc., that would choke Dubai. Or if the global mood turned against tax havens and rich havens, Dubai is seen as one, maybe there'd be pressure. Already, the EU and others nudged the UAE to tighten money laundering controls. For instance, Dubai became a bit of a magnet for Russian wealth after sanctions in 2022. No prizes for guessing why. A yacht in Dubai means it's out of reach of Western sanctions. Good for short-term business, but long-term could irritate relations with Western regulators. Another vulnerability, environmental. Dubai's basically at sea level on the coast in a region that will get hotter and possibly face rising sea levels. They're building like there's no tomorrow on those coastlines. Hopefully they have a plan if climate change causes problems. The same goes for water supply. All water is desalinated, energy-intensive, and costly because there's no natural freshwater. They manage, but it's a dependence on tech and energy always. All told, Dubai's economy is kind of like a high-performance sports car. When it's good, it's thrilling and super fast. When something goes wrong, it can spin out dramatically. And ironically, the people at the wheel are the same royals and executives who have always been driving it, with little democratic input from the residents. It's not like they have an electorate to answer to if they screw up. Their incentive to avoid screw-ups is preserving their own wealth and attracting foreigners, which they care about a lot, but it's a unique governance model that can make or break things. 6. The social divide, bling versus reality. Let's circle back to the social aspect to tie into the reality behind the facade theme. We've covered the migrant workers in detail, but let's talk about the broader inequality in social structure, because it's pretty fascinating and stark. Dubai often markets itself as a melting pot where people from all over the world come together. And it's true in a superficial sense. walk through Dubai Mall and you'll see a tapestry of ethnicities. Arab men in kanjuras, women in abayas, Westerners in shorts and flip-flops, South Asian families, East Asian tour groups, African professionals, you name it. It's very international. But it's international in a stratified way. At the very top are the Emiratis, the citizens. They are only roughly 10% of the population in Dubai, but they own a lot of the land, especially historically, and they hold most positions of real power in government. By law, for a long time, every company needed a local Emirati partner or sponsor if it wasn't in a free zone. That basically guaranteed that locals got a slice of the economic pie even if foreigners ran the show. In practice, sometimes this just meant a local was paid an annual fee to be the sponsor and not do much else. Nice gig if you can get it. It's like getting paid to be a silent partner just for being born Emirati. The citizenry also get heavy subsidies. Free healthcare, free education, often free housing or land grants when they marry, cushy government jobs with good pay and no taxes. The government even gives cash or subsidized loans for weddings and children. It's a well-oiled patronage system. Why? Because if you're one of the few citizens, the ruling family wants you to be happy and loyal. They essentially buy social peace by making sure locals have little to complain about economically. Then, you have wealthy expats. These could be Western expatriates or rich folks from anywhere who move to Dubai for business. They enjoy a life that can be extremely luxurious. Villas with pools, private school for kids, there are tons of international schools, brunches at fancy hotels. A big thing in Dubai, Friday brunch that's basically an all-you-can-eat and drink extravaganza, albeit pricey. These people might not have political rights, but they often don't care. They treat Dubai like a fabulous temporary home that lets them accumulate wealth. No income tax is a big plus. Or have a lifestyle they might not afford back home, household help is cheap, weather is nice in winter, etc. There's a joke among expats. The Dubai 5-year plan: come for 2 years, stay for 5, then another, and suddenly it's 20 years later. It's easy to get comfortable if you're making good money. The middle tier of expats includes the huge number of mid-level professionals, skilled workers, small business owners, etc. They might be making decent wages but not saving a ton. Some will eventually return home with some savings. They face uncertainty because if they lose their job, they typically have a short time to find a new one or they have to leave. That can make life stressful. You're always a bit on edge, even if you're living in a nice apartment because your visa is tied to your job. Many keep families back home due to costs or schooling, etc., leading to a large bachelor workforce living without their spouse kids, which is a social issue too. Imagine not seeing your family for years. That's common for some laborers. Even mid-level expats sometimes send kids to boarding school elsewhere later on. At the bottom of the pyramid, the laborers and domestic workers we discussed. They are the invisible backbone. They have the least protections and the most precarious existence. One paycheck away from disaster, and ironically, during COVID, some who lost jobs had to rely on charity to get food because they had nothing and weren't citizens, so no safety net. Dubai did do large-scale food aid and charter flights to send unemployed workers home, which was somewhat humanitarian but also pragmatic, to reduce excess workers when jobs were gone. The contrast hits you in the face in certain places. One part of Dubai called Satwa, or another called Sonapur, which literally means city of gold in Hindi, ironically are known as areas where many laborers live. It's basic accommodation. Meanwhile, a few miles away, someone is sipping a $15 latte with gold flakes in it at the Burj Khalifa lounge. It's not that the US or other places don't have inequality, we have plenty, but in Dubai it's like different worlds adjacent but seldom interacting. Culturally, there's also a lot kept separate. Nightclubs, bars, yes, Dubai has those in hotels primarily, because technically those serve alcohol in a Muslim country via a loophole. Fancy restaurants, you'll see mostly foreigners or rich locals. The laborers and lower-income folks have separate low-cost eateries, or often cook their own simple meals to save money. Housing is segregated by affordability anyway. And government policies sometimes literally segregate. There have been attempts to move labor camps farther out so they are out of sight. It can feel like a sanitized, Disney-like city because the messiness, poverty, slums, etc. is hidden or pushed out. In the US, you drive from Beverly Hills to Skid Row, it's jarring but visible. In Dubai, you'd have to drive intentionally to the outskirts to find poverty pockets. Out of sight, out of mind, part of the facade. Socially, the citizens also live somewhat apart. Many Emiratis live in designated neighborhoods, often lavish villas provided or subsidized by the state. They interact with expats at work sometimes, but there's a certain cultural gap. Different lifestyles, different circles. Some expats live for decades and have Emirati friends, but many can count the times they've been inside an Emirati home on one hand, if ever. It's like two parallel societies that overlap at shopping malls and maybe the workplace, but not so much in private life. In terms of inequality, it's not just income, it's also legal. If you're an Emirati, you have rights that foreigners don't. Not just citizenship rights, but even in the justice system, critics say a local's word might carry more weight. If a migrant worker accuses a local of something, good luck. There's definitely a hierarchy under the law in practice, though officially everyone is equal under law, etc., but biases exist. Now, how does Dubai maintain this without unrest? A mix of carrot and stick. Carrot. Decent wages relative to home for the migrants, no taxes, and the lure of opportunity, plus the glitzy environment that people enjoy. Stick. Strict laws against dissent. You can't protest, you can't form a union, and if you gripe too much or cause trouble, deportation is the likely outcome, or jail then deportation. Even wealthy expats know to steer clear of criticizing the rulers or the system publicly. There's surveillance and an eye on social media. People have gotten in trouble for an angry Facebook post about their employer or the government. So, much like Vegas might kick out card counters to keep the casino fun going, Dubai quietly removes troublemakers to keep the societal facade smooth. A bit of subtle humor here. It's like that perfect Stepford Wives neighborhood all pristine, because anyone who doesn't mow their lawn properly gets booted out of the HOA. Dubai is the HOA president of itself, enforcing the rules strictly. This approach clearly works to maintain order and attract business, but it's a trade-off. For an American used to free speech and workers' rights, Dubai can seem like an alternate reality. On the plus side, super safe streets, seriously, virtually no violent crime. You can walk around at 2 a.m. fine. On the downside, don't try to organize a march for better wages, you'll be on a one-way flight home. In fact, if I delivered this kind of monologue on a Dubai TV station, I'd probably find myself on a flight out as well, best case scenario. They keep a very tight lid on criticism to maintain that perfect image. 7. The business-friendly mirage, regulations and wooing the world. Let's examine how Dubai entices businesses and investors from around the globe, because it's not just pretty buildings. They set the rules of the game in a way that screams, invest here, please. One word, tax-free. Okay, two words, tax-free and perks. For decades, Dubai had zero income tax, zero corporate tax except on oil companies and banks, and no value-added tax. It was essentially one giant offshore haven that also had cool skyscrapers. This is like catnip for entrepreneurs and companies. Imagine telling an American business owner, hey, relocate here, you get to keep all your profits, and by the way, we have palm trees, you can still get Starbucks and it's stable. Many said, sign me up. That's why you had companies like Halliburton, an oil services giant, moving their HQ to Dubai at one point. Or why every consultant from New York to London would do a stint in Dubai for that sweet, untaxed paycheck. Now, slight update. In 2018, they introduced a 5% VAT, value-added tax across the UAE. So not completely tax-free anymore, but a 5% consumption tax is still very low by global standards. And just this year, 2023, they're introducing a corporate tax of 9% on business profits, over a certain threshold, to align with global norms a bit. Still, 9% is peanuts compared to, say, 21% in the US or 19% in the UK. And zero personal income tax remains, so the allure is still real. Beyond taxes, there's the ease of doing business. Dubai has those free zones we mentioned, which are like little pockets where a foreigner can set up a company without needing a local partner and with light regulation. They have free zones tailored to different industries. DIFC, Dubai International Financial Center for Finance, with its own laws based on English common law and even its own courts to make foreigners comfortable. They even flew in actual retired British judges to preside over those courts, practically saying, "See, we have folks with English accents in wigs. You can trust us." Internet City and Media City for tech and media companies, which attracted names like Microsoft, Oracle, CNN, BBC to set up regional offices. Dubai Multi-Commodities Center DMCC for commodity trading companies, and so on. There's basically a free zone for everything: healthcare, academic, you name it. It's like a buffet of business setups: choose your zone, get your license, voila. They also built world-class infrastructure for business. Massive convention centers, Dubai hosts tons of international conferences and expos, top-notch telecom, good transportation. You can fly direct to over 200 cities from Dubai, which is a big plus for companies with regional operations. Being in roughly the same time zone stretch as Europe, Africa, and Asia's main markets helps too. You can do conference calls with London and Mumbai in the same day without someone dialing in at 3 a.m. Another part of the business culture: glitz and glam in corporate hospitality. Deals in Dubai might be discussed over a round of golf at one of the championship courses, or at a flashy dinner in the Burj Al Arab, or on a yacht at the marina. There's a bit of a lifestyle aspect to working there, like a constant wooing environment. One might cynically say it can be superficial, but hey, it's effective for some. It's like Wall Street greed meets Hollywood showmanship. The government also heavily markets Dubai globally. The airline helps, as mentioned. Emirates sponsors major sports teams' events worldwide, slaps Fly Emirates on Arsenal and Real Madrid jerseys. All that builds brand Dubai by association. They run the biggest airline by international passenger miles, basically to funnel folks through Dubai, hoping a layover or an ad will intrigue them to invest or revisit. It's state capitalism meets PR genius. Let's not overlook the role of Dubai as a global investment hub in another sense: real estate for wealth parking, and as a finance center. A lot of wealthy individuals from less stable countries put money in Dubai property because they trust it more than their own place. It's like how rich Latin Americans buy condos in Miami as safe assets. So Dubai soaks up capital from places like India, Pakistan, Iran, Nigeria, Russia, China. Anyone who has money and might feel their home country is risky either politically or economically. Also, unfortunately, some illicit money too: corrupt officials or criminals. Dubai's been known as a bit of a money laundering haven. There's even that quip among compliance officers. The three most common words in money laundering are: transfer to Dubai. They have tried to crack down recently because they don't want to be blacklisted, but it's a reputation that sticks somewhat. On regulation, Dubai's attitude has often been, we'll figure it out as we go. For example, they wanted to be a hub for finance, so they set up DIFC with proper laws. They wanted to be a hub for art and culture. They loosened some censorship rules, built a big opera house, allowed art galleries, though politics in art careful. They wanted tech startups, started tech accelerators, gave long-term visas to coders. There's an adaptability there. The UAE recently started offering something called a golden visa, a 10-year residency for certain skilled professionals or big investors, to entice talent to stay longer. Because they realized some stable population of talented people is needed. You can't have everyone on a 2-year visa treadmill if you want people to really invest themselves in the place. To give an idea of how quickly Dubai can pivot in the name of business, recently the UAE changed its weekend. For decades, the official weekend was Thursday-Friday, later Friday-Saturday because of Friday prayers. But in 2022, they shifted to a Saturday-Sunday weekend, with a half-day Friday, basically to align with Western workweeks and global markets. Imagine the government just declaring, "All right, everyone, we're moving the weekend." It's the kind of top-down decision that in the US would lead to 10,000 conspiracy theories and a Supreme Court battle. In Dubai, it happened with a snap of royal fingers. It shows that if aligning with the international system helps business, they'll do it, tradition be darned, within limits. For Americans specifically, doing business in Dubai is relatively easy because English is the de facto business language. All contracts, signs, etc. are in English along with Arabic, but English dominates commerce. It's a bit like Hong Kong used to be: East meets West environment. But again, there's that undertone: the rule of law is top-down. If you get into a legal dispute, there's a fair system, especially in free zones. but if it somehow touches on government interests or powerful locals, you might be in trouble. It's not a place where investigative journalism thrives either, so corporate malfeasance or government corruption, if any, rarely gets exposed unless someone outside investigates. The image is tightly controlled. We should mention, the leadership also sets ambitious visions and strategies every few years. They have had plans like Dubai Strategic Plan 2015, then Dubai Plan 2021, now Dubai 2040 Urban Master Plan, etc. These documents outline targets, number of tourists, GDP growth, new industries, etc., and they often hit many because they align resources to achieve them. It's very much run like a company with targets and KPIs. There's a Ministry of Happiness, not kidding, and even a Minister of Artificial Intelligence to signal modernity and progressive governance, even if some of it is window dressing. One more for the Americans. In business culture, they often highlight how secure and low-crime Dubai is, how you can leave your laptop at a cafe and it'll be there when you return. That kind of stability and safety, partly due to the surveillance and strict laws, is a selling point. Compare that to some developing markets where an American businessperson might be worried about personal safety or kidnappings. In Dubai, that's basically non-existent, so it attracts regional HQs. More than 70% of Fortune 500 companies have some presence in the UAE. If the Middle East, North Africa is your market, Dubai is your base. Unless you're in oil, then you're in Saudi or Abu Dhabi perhaps. 8. Conclusion: the shimmering facade and the substance behind it. So what do we make of Dubai after all this? Is it a shimmering success story, a cautionary tale, or a little of both? Well, like many things, it's complicated. Dubai managed to do something incredible. It transformed itself from a tiny fishing village into a global city in just a few decades. It diversified from oil faster than perhaps any other oil economy. They saw the writing on the wall and pivoted hard. Now oil is an afterthought in its GDP, which is truly impressive and forward-looking. They've built world-class infrastructure, attracted millions of visitors and thousands of companies, and become a major nexus for travel and trade. For a region often plagued by instability, Dubai stands out as relatively stable and prosperous. Credit where credit's due. That took vision, boldness, and yes, lots of spending. However, and it's a big however, that success has come with some deep flaws. The model relies on a kind of economic sleight of hand. Look at the shiny buildings. Pay no attention to the workers living in cramped quarters. Enjoy your tax-free salary, but don't expect to have a say in how the place is run. Marvel at the growth, but remember much of the capital fueling it is debt or flighty foreign money that can vanish. See the luxury, but know that not everyone sharing the city is sharing in the wealth. For Americans, Dubai can be both awe-inspiring and disconcerting. Awe-inspiring because, let's face it, parts of it feel like the set of a sci-fi movie about the future. It's like taking the most modern bits of New York, Las Vegas, and Miami, blending them with some Arabian Nights flair, and plopping it in a desert. It shows what's possible with lots of money and ambition unencumbered by democratic process or a free press nagging about cost overruns or labor rights. Which is exactly the disconcerting part. We're used to checks and balances, debates, gradual progress peppered with setbacks. Dubai is more like the king decided and so it shall be. Efficient, yes. But if he decides something not so great, that's tough luck for everyone. We should also note Dubai's story isn't finished. It's still evolving. The city is trying to position for a world of electric vehicles, artificial intelligence, remote work. They now talk about building a knowledge economy, and less about just construction and tourism. There's a push for sustainability in a place that until recently had a carbon footprint akin to a small country, just from all the AC and desalination. They even have a minister for climate change and have built big solar projects out in the desert. Perhaps aware that being seen as just a luxury playground isn't enough, they are trying to mature into a more well-rounded economy, like becoming a hub for higher education by hosting campuses of foreign universities, encouraging media production with new studios, even dabbling in allowing gambling. There's talk of casinos to compete with, guess who, Las Vegas, now that some social attitudes have relaxed a bit. So change is constant. The reality behind the facade is a mix of savvy economic planning and harsh social truths. It's a place where wealth is highly concentrated and visible, but poverty is present and hidden. Where the governance model allows for incredible development speed, but also stifles voices. Where East meets West, sometimes in harmony at a brunch buffet, sometimes in stark hierarchy on a construction site. To end on a comedic note, we gotta leave you with a smile, right? Dubai is kind of like that friend on Instagram who only posts the highlight reel, the perfect sunset, the new Lamborghini, the rooftop party. You envy them, you think, wow, they have it all. But you know deep down that off camera their credit card is maxed out, they had their cousin take those photos, and there's drama in their life they're not sharing. Dubai's the glamorous friend with a complicated life. Still, you can't help but hit like on those posts because damn, they look good. So next time you see a crazy story about Dubai, whether it's a cop car that's a Ferrari or a plan to tow an iceberg from Antarctica to cool the city, yes, that was a real proposal, remember. It's all part of the branding, the spectacle. But behind it, there's a real city with real people working hard, an economy playing high-stakes games to keep the party going, and a balancing act between modernity and inequity. Dubai's economy is a fascinating case of if you build it, they will come, taken to extreme levels. They built it and people came. The big question is, can they keep them coming and at what cost? For now, the lights on the Burj Khalifa still shine every night, the malls buzz with shoppers, and flights full of fortune seekers and tourists still land every day. Just remember, for every shiny facade, someone, somewhere, is dusting it or holding it up from behind. And that is the reality behind Dubai's luxurious facade. Dubai, you're insane, absolutely bonkers, but in a strange way, that's part of your charm. The world would be a lot more boring without your over-the-top stunts and audacious dreams. Just maybe take better care of the people who make those dreams reality, ease up on the draconian rules a smidge, and watch that debt, okay? We do want this party to last, but not at the expense of a lot of silent suffering.